So, welcome back. Had a bit of a crazy sort of 24 hours. I woke up to an email looking for a sync brief for a new track, which was a very, very, very tight turnaround. I'm sure if some of you follow the particular website or subscribe to it, you'll have got the same brief, and maybe you applied for this track as well. But essentially, looking for a kind of 24-hour turnaround on a track. We're searching for haunting and atmospheric tracks for a nightmare scene. Tracks should be dark, gothic and unsettled. Tracks can be commercial releases with vocals or orchestral underscore type tracks, but shouldn't be too straightforward. And then when you click on the link, you get into a few demo tracks. And this is a really important part of working with sync and libraries and stuff like that, is that they'll always give you tracks to sort of copy. Copy is the wrong words, but as a guide. And there's always elements within each track that the producer will want. And it's actually a kind of an art of putting all these different elements together into one thing. So this is how I sort of spent yesterday. If you look at my Instagram from yesterday, you'll see a time lapse of me sat here for several hours writing this. And literally this piece has gone from absolutely nothing to being mixed and mastered, probably within the space of about 8 hours of work, if maybe a little bit less, depending, because I had quite a bit of stuff to kind of do yesterday as well. And I always like setting myself these challenges of getting these things done, just deciding, right, you've got a bit of free time, do the best that you can, see what happens. There's no harm in doing it, and it's good for the technique, it's good for practice, it's good for just keeping being a composer who can work quickly and not be too precious about things. And as you can see from the screen, I'm certainly not precious about what I'm showing you, is that all the sketching rough stuff is here. There's lots of stuff that I've just left muted because I decided I don't want it. So actually the elements that are here that I do want, there's actually not as much here going on as it looks like there is, because rather than deleting stuff, because I've just muted it simply because I was in such a rush to get it finished that actually I didn't want to delete anything in case I actually needed it back in the version. It was everything was extremely last minute decisions. So this piece is called The Hounded. What I'll do is I'm going to play it for you now, and then I'm going to show you bits that I have used and also bits that I haven't used as well, so you can kind of see the decisions that I decided not to make after several hours of listening to the piece. So here is the mix of Hounded, not mastered, but here is the mix of this piece. So 2 minutes 20 of music, which before 9 AM yesterday did not exist. So I'm quite happy with how it's sounding. It loses interest and energy a little bit just for the last 20 seconds. If I had had more time before the submission, I would have probably compressed and shortened that or added another element just to my ear. It just needs a little bit something extra in there. I just brought up the reverbs that I'm using, Mechanics Hall from Altiverb Pro R. What I'm using a lot of, and I use this in my music a lot, is this thing here, which is my old violin, which used to be my grand's on my dad's side. And then I inherited it, and I played this at school for a very short time. And I use it all the time on tracks, even though I'm absolutely rubbish. But this is quite an important part of the whole piece. In fact, we even just look at the kind of drone that we've got in the opening here. That's me just playing that. And as great as all these sample libraries are, I think that having an element of live in a track really helps. Just sticking with the violins, we've got these violin layers which are panned very heavily left and right, and this is me playing it in. And then later on. So that's just giving a sense of space. These are really wide in the stereo image, not immediately close at all, but quite wide, and just giving that sort of envelope of sound. And all I'm doing, or was doing basically, was kind of this, I guess. I'm rubbish. I'm absolutely rubbish. But for this purpose, absolutely fine. Because it's not in the forefront. It's just about creating an ambience. And I can't believe I just played my violin on vlog. Enjoy that. So yeah, that's what's going on there with those elements. Then I've got other closer sounds in the violins here as well. In the kind of second half of this. You hear these are much more present, much closer. This is me just layering the violin played 4 times, panned a little bit, and with this AKG microphone. So these are the kind of the acoustic elements. What I'm also using is Spitfire Aperture is in it all the way, using quite a lot of their synths as well, because they give kind of a nice fake string sound, which I like a lot. So that sounds quite a lot like a violin. Now, I'm using Albion, the Uist from Spitfire as well. I love these sounds so much. Out the box, they just sound unbelievably real. I mean, kind of because they are, I suppose. So they sound absolutely amazing out the box. They're a brilliant tool for this sort of piece, because those sort of techniques would take forever to actually write and get an ensemble to play, or to program it would take forever. You know, you'd have sort of 15 individual violin channels and actually just be able to basically play it and get an incredibly realistic sound, and a very organic sound from the Albion is really useful. So I'm using a bit of Aperture, a bit of Albion. This low melody is all Spitfire. So we've got contrabass, clarinet, contrabassoon, cello, and double bass. And that interval from the F sharp to the F, the octave below it, is essentially what makes up the whole piece. I wanted it to be extremely simple and clear what the the melody is from the beginning. And that just makes it easier for me. If I make the decision very quickly, this is the simple melody, and that's what I'm going to run with, then that just makes everything much, much clearer. So moving further up, we've got this distorted electronic noise, which comes to kind of attack the organic nature. And it's a mix of scoring synths, a bass of theirs, which is on the left there, and spitfireaudio synths, the walls, thanks but no thanks, one of my favourite synths. It sounds like this. What I'm using on one of these is a Panagement. Panagement is a really cool piece of kit where you can control the stereo placement of a track with automation. I've kind of lazily copied and pasted it. I would maybe be a little bit more careful with that, but because this was done so quickly, if I play this back, you can see how I'm moving the sound from far away to close, so it's got this sense of movement within one of the elements of it. So here it is with Panagement. You can see how it moves around from far to close. And if I had longer, I would do a lot more of this detailed stuff. I really like Panagement because you can visually see where things are going in the stereo field. Of course, always use your ears, but for when I'm up against it and need something done quickly, this is my tool that I go to all the time. I'll leave a link in the description so you can have a look at it. So that's essentially the whole sounds that are going on. There's some low booms going on somewhere, which I made myself. This is actually on the violin. What I did was I just knocked this part of it here, and you get a nice reverb from it, a very organic reverb. I think when you've got low booms, you want it to sound as real as possible. I've done it on a piano as well, where I've hit the piano and recorded that and EQ'd it in many ways. And yeah, that's how I like to create it. The more organic and real I can make it sound, I think the better the piece is going to sound. And if I take away all the effects, it'll still have the normal reverb on it, but that's what it sounded like to begin with. Sounds rubbish. But yeah, with a bit of really long Pro R 8-second reverb, that's what this kind of sound needs. It puts it in the space. And yeah, there's a lot of stuff that I didn't use in this, which actually I'm quite happy to kind of show you. So last night I sort of had these pulley sticks on the go, and listening back to them, I just thought, oh, they're just too complicated. It's an element that I just don't need. So I had the introduction of the distorted noise, and then suddenly these other random sticks coming in, and it sounded like this, and it sounds, nah, it's rubbish. Too much going on. Far too much going on, and all the way through as well. What am I thinking? What I also got rid of was some low percussion, which came in towards the end. It just didn't need it. It needed something, but not this. Again, it's just adding an element too late in the day. You could tell I was getting tired by this stage. There was a clock ticking, which I thought was a bit cheesy. But I got rid of that because I like the idea that you can't tell what the tempo of this piece is. That's a really, really critical thing. I think that they're looking for something unusual, and you can't really tell what it is, and I think not having a tempo is kind of a really critical part of that. Last random thing that I had was this bloomin' organ. Now what I was trying to do was add a sense of kind of space, but sort of like something which was exposing the harmony, and then realised there's actually no harmony in this really. It's more about different elements fighting against each other. Why the heck am I trying to give it a harmonic language at all? Totally crazy, and I'm glad I got rid of it because it didn't help it at all. in the slightest. So that's a very quick look at what I was able to write within the space of, well, I mean, less than 24 hours. I saw the email at like 9 o'clock yesterday morning, and the deadline was 9 o'clock today, and I submitted it at 11:40 last night, but I had a lot of teaching to do yesterday and a lot of other things. So yeah, this is really the product of just a few hours work. I also mastered it as well. If you want to hear the whole thing, I put it on SoundCloud. You can listen to the mastered version, and you can critique my my terrible control of bass and generally really bad mixing skills. But I would have been annoyed if I hadn't done it. When an opportunity like this comes up and someone's looking for a piece quickly, and it's the sort of music that I love to write. When someone says, "Oh, write something spooky, horror, dark, sci-fi kind of thing," that really, really excites me a lot. So I felt like I really wanted to put in the effort and time, and I'm quite happy with the results, I have to say. And you can let me know in the comments what you think. And of course, critique it however you like. This is a very different piece to the little video that I posted most recently with the little piano thing. So I'm just showing you kind of the variety of stuff that I like to write. Certainly not a composer that can be pigeonholed too easily, I hope. Anyway, thank you so much for coming back to the vlog. I'm absolutely delighted with how many people are actually tuning in to these videos. They're extremely niche and geeky, but people, you seem to like them. So thank you. Keep tuning in. There'll be more content coming as always. And yeah, speak to you in the comments, and see you next time. Take care.